Hello, I've been playing a lot of Arbiter, and I've been talking to other people that also have been playing a lot of Arbiter. My best Havoc win streak with the class is about 10, 11-ish. I kind of stopped counting. So let's just quickly run through this before so we can talk about the talents. So here's the build if you just want it. This, like this. If you just want a copy, but I really, really recommend you listen to this one because people are terrible at playing this class, believe it or not. And I want to talk about how to actually play him and the things you can change around because you kind of actually need context for some stuff. The Shock Maul is just his best weapon. Flak Carapace are no-brainer, like obvious you need these. High Voltage is also obvious. But I see a lot of people run the 20% damage on staggered enemies blessing, and I think that sucks. And here's why I think it sucks. Because even against a non-Havoc Crusher, doing your optimal damage-like combo, you reach 4 to 5 stacks. Now, doing the same thing against this guy, you reach 2, sometimes going into 3 stacks. So the enemies in Havoc with their health pools, you end up getting like 5 stacks all the time versus whatever you're fighting. So this is way more stronger against bosses, crushers, and maulers. And those 3 things end up being the biggest roadblocks that you need the most damage against in Havoc. The shotgun, I think, is better than the bolter. Black Maniac is just kind of required because this weapon is absolutely dog shit at trying to snipe flamers and bombers, and this is like the main thing that you need to be using a gun for in Havoc. Especially if you're like 30 meters out like this, you really just need whatever help you can get. It's almost not even worth it, but hey, sometimes you just got to do it. The main reason why this shotgun is good is for this right here. You can just absolutely, like, this is how you start juicing your boss damage, is like this. And the even more important reason is, let's say you're fighting in a choke point that's from about there to about there, like a doorway. You can just shoot, like, a crusher or 2 with this and start attacking them. Go back, pull this out. If you're ever out of shock mines, you can continue fulfilling your, like, living smite stun lock roll with this shotgun, which is better than just any raw damage. This is one of those times where you really just have to accept that you can't pad your parse for the scoreboard because you just got more important shit to be doing with your gun. So if you're a True Grit fan, you want a 21% health Curio, and you want to run max health on 3 Curios, because in Havoc 40, with 21% HP Curio and 3 max healths, you get another proc of True Grit. So if you're going to use True Grit, you might as well optimize for its value. If you don't like True Grit, then run 3 Toughness Curios and replace the max health with either Stamina Regen, Combat Ability Regen, or Gunner Damage Resistance. Whichever of those 3 you prefer. Worth noting, the Arbiter is a class that really doesn't need Combat Ability Regen, because he literally has like a 12-second ultimate. Okay, now let's talk about the talents. Hammer of Judgment is 10% attack speed on hitting 3 enemies, which, I mean, come on. When are you not hitting 3 enemies with this guy? Even armor packs, you just do one like push into heavy, and there you go. You'll hit 3 of them. Force of Will is basically just 10% toughness on every melee attack for every enemy you hit, and up close is basically the exact same thing. This is just out for blood, but for melee only. But, I mean, you can proc it with shotgun close kills, but, when the fuck are you just shooting a regular horde with your shotgun? It's too valuable for that. So, you know. But still, 5% toughness on melee kill is ridiculous. It's literally just out for blood, which is one of the best nodes in the game. So you combine up close with Force of Will, and basically you're getting like 50, 60, 70 plus sometimes % toughness back on every melee attack. Also, Walk It Off is, even though they just nerfed it, I mean, come on. This is like your optimal melee rotation right here for like, for horde clearing. Jesus, I can't speak. Sorry, speech impediment. For horde clearing. So unless they're going to make this like 5% replenish, I just don't see this ever being worse than like these. And honestly, man, I just hate perfect blocking. Like, this is fine, but dude, perfect blocking is just kind of gay. I'm just going to be honest. Okay, I think Lone Wolf is just strictly better than Dog. Let's get this out of the way as well. If you're going to use the Dog Whistle mod, which allows the dog to have like 100% maximum uptime on the exact targets you want without any input from you, then Dog is definitely the best way to run Arbiter. In fact, it's borderline overpowered. If you aren't going to use that mod, I think the dog is just too much of a goddamn hassle for what he does. And I think shock mines are too strong of a tool to give up. Because shock mines literally enable Arbiter to just be a better Ogre and a better Smite Psyker. You throw one of these babies down into a fucking choke point, and you basically for the next 20 seconds have control of that. Because even when the shock mine ends, you could just do this to knock them over. You can see they're knocked over for like about 5 seconds before they start moving. So 15-second shock mine, 5-second stun from the ultimate, and there you go. You just get like 20 seconds of straight stun that's infinitely repeatable. You have to take this node. This is gay as fuck, frankly. Concussive just makes it so that every single hit staggers everything. This is, well, there he's on a stagger cooldown. Crushers are a little bit different. They have that like weird inbuilt stagger cooldown. But you could see like you just turn everything, even light attacks, into stagger city. And that enables you to also keep things locked down, which is your main job as this guy. Honestly, this row is so strong. It's really hard to ever justify, even with a dog, like taking this kind of shit. Because then you get right into suppression protocols, which is basically just 100% uptime in a fight of 20% toughness damage reduction. Okay? Sure, so we have every attack becomes stagger into every attack gives you TDR. Okay. Breaking Descent is also just kind of the best aura because you're making sure everything is staggered, so this is just 10% damage for everyone. So, Lone Wolf, I think, is definitely, if you're not going to use mods, the best way to play the class. Because 15% TDR, that's nice. That's worth a skill point in its own right. 10% attack speed is a skill point everyone spends on every class in its own right. 10% damage isn't really worth taking, but it's about 1 skill point worth of value before all of these reworks keep power creeping everything. Now it's about 15%. 1 increased charges on your grenade is literally what used to be 1 skill point on the veteran, and recharge an ability every 60 seconds is also 1 skill point on the veteran. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 skill points worth of talents in 1 Keystone. And then you compare that to 25% elite specialist damage. Yeah, go fuck yourself. Thank you, Fat Shark Balancing Team. Same with Go Get 'em. Who gives a shit? These are not even that good, even if you're using the dog. Like, even if you're using the dog, you might as well take these. But at the same time, like, come on, they're so mid. You and I both know they're mid. Okay, I'm gonna rant about this in its own dedicated video, but Castigator's Stance is actually dog shit. It is a terrible ability. I genuinely don't even think I would give it a C tier. It's fun, it's funny, haha, the Lex, I'm unkillable. But it doesn't actually help you and your team in any way. Being unkillable when you're already playing a class that is unkillable is why do you need to stack 2 forms of being unkillable? Break the Line is much better. 1, because Arbiter kind of struggles getting damage, and 2, just hear me out here. So, Commendation from Condemnation is kind of insane, or a cock, as I like to call it. So, cock is a pretty insane ability modifier, because this is basically just 100% free toughness restore, but more importantly, this is a stamina restore. So, you kind of want to be spamming this on cooldown for the damage. And you also want to be spamming your stamina as much as you can get it for optimal damage. So then you just, like, you know, do this. In Havoc, there's going to be specials and elites in, like, every wave. And let me show you, this is really easy to get, like, everything back on. So this is just kind of a full restore of everything all the time. Now, I also see a lot of people do not take Targeted Brutality. I think you guys are fucking insane, frankly, because this node, again, look at this. This node makes your ultimate have a 14-second cooldown. It's like 12, 11-second cooldown if you're going to use CDR with it. So every, like, 10 to 14 seconds, you get to re-stun everything. You get to restore all of your stamina and get a free toughness restore. But more importantly, it's this right here. 20% damage for 6 seconds. This is like Arbiter's biggest single damage increase. So you really kind of want to be spamming this as much as possible. If you're going to go the CDR no true grit route and have like an 11-second break the line, this is like 50% permanent uptime on damage for fights, which actually helps the Arbiter a lot when it comes to killing Crushers. Okay, now let's talk about here, because there's two things that I want to talk about just immediately and right away. There is a lot of options down here. The Arbiter has a lot of really good options. So if you don't like what I'm doing here, there are like 3 skill points you can maybe change around. And I would agree with you that, yeah, that's about as strong, just in a different way. So let's talk about two things right away. Rebreather in Havoc, I think, is kind of non-negotiable. This is really fucking good. Now, you might be like, what the hell? I think the single most dangerous thing in Havoc is Tox Bombers. Because, think about it. Anyone who plays Havoc 40 a lot will tell you, kill Bombers before anything else, and then kill Flamers before anything else that isn't a Bomber. That's like unarguable, just the rules of playing Havoc. Because things that suck up space that's what gets you killed in Havoc. Losing your choke point. If you're fighting, you can fight 1,000 Crushers over the course of 30 minutes forever in a choke point as the Arbiter with your team behind you. You could literally stall the game forever and be fine. But if there's just one Flamer that shoots a puff of flyer in that, you lose the choke point, which means you're fighting in the open, which means you get surrounded and die. Same thing with Bombers. Tox Bombers have like double the radius of normal Bombers, and I'm pretty sure their thing lasts longer too. But more importantly than that, they also buff enemies. Ever fight a blue stim Toxic Rager? They're literally fucking immortal. So it's very important that if there's a gas bomber, you run into the gas. It doesn't matter if you're like 20, 30 meters away from your team. You just have to say, fuck it. This is the whole point of playing Arbiter. You just have to say, fuck it, run it through the gas, snipe the guy with your shotgun, and if you have to, if there's enemies between you, use break the line to get back to your team. Your Havoc win rate will go up so fucking much if you just always go YOLO, fuck it, and you just run through the corruption and the toxic gas, and you just kill the source of it. Because if there's like 3 toxic bombers, and they each throw 1 volley or 2 volleys, that's 6 tox bombs. That's literally like 2 rooms worth of space you just lost. And that's like 3 hordes that just got buffed. That's game losing in its own right. So this is a really strong tech pick. And I really wouldn't play Havoc without it. Now, if you're not playing Havoc, this node is basically fucking useless. I will say that. If you're not playing Havoc, there's really no reason to ever take this. And True Grit. I constantly go back and forth on True Grit because I've streamed Havoc for about 10 hours now, and this only activated 7 times for me. Your use case may vary, but my average Havoc run is about 25 to 30 minutes. So that means True Grit activates 1 time for me. And I'm talking like the entire, I'm talking like boss overheads, crusher overheads, sniper hits, or just general like toughness bleed through attacks, just all of it. I've watched through my streams, and this node only activated like 7 times in 10 hours, which means every 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 3 games, this activates 1 time. Now, it does kind of save my life whenever it activates, so for me, that's the value calculation that goes through my head. Is it worth spending 1 skill point, so like 3% of my skill points, just to not die every like 3rd run to something that would probably have killed me? And I go back and forth on whether this is worth it or not all the time. Because sometimes you get outliers where you go 5 games and this doesn't activate and you feel like a fucking dumbass. That's what happened to me with Zealot. I would play like old Havoc 40 with Zealot, literally not proc until death. Like I'd proc it like 1 out of 10 games, and I'd go like, why am I wasting points taking this? And I feel the same way about True Grit. But True Grit does provide a lot more value. So, really, I don't think True Grit is bad per se. Like, I don't think you shouldn't take it, but I also constantly see evidence that tells me I probably shouldn't take it. But at the end of the day, it's only 1 skill point, and the Arbiter is kind of like, what else are you going to spend it on? 15% more damage? That's why I just end up taking it more often than not, because it's just kind of comfy. It's just nice having the security, and really it comes down to, do I actually give a fuck about 15% more damage? Okay, so one other thing I want to say, when I play this class, I play him very lazy, and I just like to hold I just like to turn on the auto attack script and just let the M1 to death because he's strong enough that this is like legitimately viable. For a regular person though, you probably want to drop like the Emperor's Fist or whatever for Weight of the Lex. You could also drop Soul Guilt Scan for it, because I want to talk about this node in detail for a second. But if you're just on the fuck it, bro, I'm just going to turn on a script and let it mash M1 for me life, then you don't really need Weight of the Lex because you barely heavy attack. But don't do that. That's lazy. That's garbage. That's shit. That's like the kind of shit that makes Chinese fathers abandon their children when they see them taking those shortcuts. You know, that's some, like, get your finger chopped off at the Chinese factory type shit. Anyway. Drive them back is really nice. I don't know why there's people that don't take this node. The cleave on this is ridiculous. I get that this class already has a lot of cleave and impact, but the reason why this class has a bunch of cleave is because of this passive. And in all of my testing, it's actually quite a noticeable loss in your ability to cleave through things. So, target the weak is pretty good as well, because enemies are constantly getting staggered from concussive. This is just a permanent 15% melee damage. And hold the line is also, like, really good. Staggering an enemy grants a stack of damage resistance, and then whenever you take a melee hit, lose a stack, blah, 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 blah. So this is just 15% damage resistance, which ends up stacking with suppression, which ends up stacking with lone wolf, which ends up stacking with forceful. That's what makes him so tanky. Honestly, this node is really undervalued. A lot of people just breeze by it as, like, the node you have to take. But it's really important to know with the Arbiter that every time you get hit, you actually lose a shitload of survivability. Like, if you chain, like, 2 or 3 hits quickly, you're basically as fragile as, like, a veteran is, you know? So it's actually good to be mindful of that. I know it's easy to forget. So, forceful. I should just get this out of the way because people are going to ask right away, why aren't you taking Will of the Lex or Adamant Will? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think these nodes are not very good. So, Adamant Will, I think, is really bad. I don't think stun immunity is a strong thing to have. Go ahead, make fun of me for it, but I have noticed legitimately noticed absolutely zero difference in anything in my gameplay. In fact, if you doubt me on this, go watch my streams where I'm playing Arbiter and see if you can figure out when I'm using Adamant Will and when I'm not. I'm willing to bet 99% of you cannot actually figure out when I'm using Adamant Will and when I've taken it off. Because it's one of those things that sounds really good on paper, but this is like a theoretically good node, but in reality, I've noticed this node does absolutely nothing 90% of the time. Especially on Arbiter, because you're already stunning, like, everything. You know, you're either, like, fighting in a shock mine, or you've already hit something, so they're stunned. So, like, when the fuck are you getting hit out of your attacks? It's just not something that ever happens. I truly believe that this Keystone modifier is terrible, and I really don't think people should ever take it. I just think stun immunity in general is massively overrated. And why no Will of the Lex? This node is good. I would just rather have more damage. Like, you could totally take away Soul Guilt Scan and take this, and I would be like, yeah, that's smart. It's just like, you know, it's just like 5% constant toughness regeneration just for existing, which is really good, I'm not gonna lie. But at the same time, I just generate so much toughness. The only time this Keystone modifier is good, right? The only time this modifier is good is when you are completely out of toughness, behind cover, and there's like 3 elite gunners shooting you, pinning you down. And so you're just sitting there waiting for your toughness to come back. That is the legitimate only time I've noticed this modifier. I'm like, damn, I'm happy I have this. That happens so fucking rarely in Havoc that you are by yourself, out of toughness, and pinned down and can't leave the cover without instantly dying. I'm sorry if you think that happens very often. You've kid yourself. And this, like, people have told me they take this to hard counter that whenever it does happen, but I'm like, why do you put yourself in that position? You know? Don't run out in the open and lose all your toughness and get stuck behind cover, I guess. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. And targets acquired is just nice. 10% attack speed, 50% cleave, stacking with drive them back. This is what allows you to just cleave through any size horde. I don't think Arbity's Vigilant is all that great. I really wish they had made this 15 seconds and not 12. Then I would have considered it, but whatever. And Forceful, I think, is just the best Keystone. Now, the damage resistance is especially nice on Arbiter because Arbiter is constantly getting 100% toughness back. So he's getting like 200 toughness back like every other second, which actually makes damage resistance. This was the problem with Ogren in the past, is that, yeah, you could take, you know, whatever that shitty Keystone was called, the one that gives you the 25% damage resistance, but like, how are you going to get the toughness back, you know? It took you like 10 seconds of extended melee fighting to really get it back. So it was like, okay, it's, you know, turns out when you can generate 200 toughness a hit and you have multiple damage reductions you can stack, it actually becomes pretty strong all of a sudden, as opposed to getting like 50 toughness back a hit and only having one form of damage reduction. But the actual Forceful Keystone is just, it's just all right. Here, since you're down here, you might as well take it. You know, if you wanted to take Execution Order, you'd have to, like, you know, go, like, for Malakator, and it feels really awful taking this without the dog. But I also think Execution Order is really, really strong as well. Fuck, man. Like, even right now, I'm still, like, it's kind of a toss-up between the two, you know? Like, I totally get Execution Order. Malkador is insane. The actual, like, sort of half lone wolf effect is really good. Keeping Protocol is really, really good. It's just, this is just comfy and it costs less points, is really what it comes down to. This is why I said I really think you should listen to the whole video, because, you know, if you're like, well, I like Execution Order to help me with bosses and to get even more spamming on Break the Line, I'd be like, yeah, that's about even. They're good in completely opposite directions. Anyway, Justified Measures is really good. It's literally just another 15% damage for attacking things. Street Smarts is really crazy good, because without it, you only have 4 dodges, and an extra dodge has always been good. Like, an extra dodge has been an extra dodge slide, it's been an extra way to avoid bullshit. Same with dodge duration, it's just extra iframes. Monstrosity Hunter is peak for this class, because you always have a problem with... The two things that hang you up as Arbiter the most are bosses and crushers. And this node is literally this node is boss and crusher racism, the node. Arbites, whatever the fuck that word is literally just another 15%. It's just duelist for damage. You always take duelist. Why would you not always take this? Zealous Dedication is crazy. 16% crit chance for free is about on par with a tier 4 blessing. And Soul Guilt Scan, people love to say because this is strength, it's better than a damage node. And while that's technically correct, the best kind of correct, it's not actually correct. So if I just go onto a test bed build here that takes no damage nodes, and I show you something, if we do one, like, overhead, we do 415, and then we do this, and we do 725. Now if we take Soul Guilt Scan, and we stack it up, you'll see that Okay, so now it's about all stacked up, and we lost the thing. We go from 415 to 525 and about 905. So it's like, you know, it's about on par with the other damage nodes. I personally am a believer in it, but I've also heard people tell me they're very skeptical of this node's usability, because it's a stacking thing. So in between fights you lose it, and by the time you stack it up, unless you're fighting an armor pack, it's gone again. So listen, man, if you're skeptical of it, just know that it's about like it's like a 25-ish% damage node as opposed to like a 15. So I personally really like it. In fact, that's what I take over Will of the Lex. And I do think this is going to be your roundabout best setup. You could go like this as well. I would also say this is not terrible, but this leaves you vulnerable and open to getting downed a bit more often. So how do you actually play this class? Because people fucking suck at it. You need to always be, this is actually really quick because he's very basic class. always fight in a choke point away from your teammates. So let's say your teammates are like right there-ish. You want to be about 20-ish meters ahead of them, fighting in a choke point. If they're getting overwhelmed, toss a shock mine on them. But really, what you want to do, and that's also why I say 20 meters, because if you look, 20 meters is about the max range of you to just quickly whip around and throw a shock mine to help your team. You want to be spamming this on cooldown for damage and for crowd control. You want to be always having your shock mines at least at 2 so that you're getting the lone wolf counting down. And you always, always, always want to be stuck in a choke point. Do not ever fight with your team and do not ever fight in the open. That's like how you die as the arbiter. Because when you're fighting with your team, they are killing things, and they're probably killing things at the same or higher rate than you are, which means you're not like constantly putting things in the endless loop of stagger and toughness regen. The arbiter is the best solo operator in the entire game. There's a reason why he's like the true solo class. It's because you really just want to always branch off from the team and do your own thing. Like, you know how in the one... Here, let me give you a real game example. You know the map with the ritual at the end? I'm always for Dark Communion. You know how there's 2 guys on the left and 2 guys on the far right? The arbiter should always go wherever the other 3 players aren't going. Every time you do a 2-and-2 split, like, you know the one, like, sand desert map where there's 3 excise vaults and you have to go to them and grab an objective and bring it back to the central platform? Yeah. Instead of going off in 2 groups of 2, arbiter can grow off in 1 group of 1, and the other 3 can stay as a group of 3. So anytime there's an objective, you want to peel off and do your own thing so you can, like, double the rate at which the objective gets done. And anytime there's a fight, you want to generally be ahead of your team, preventing the reinforcements from coming in. Another good example. Captains always spawn with armor packs. Well, let's say you're already fighting an armor pack. Your team has it under control. But the captain is going to, like, fuck them up. So you can, like, throw a shock mine on them and then run ahead up into the choke to fight the armored reinforcements. I'll make a much more in-depth video going over how I think RBD should be played with, like, real game recordings and stuff. But I hope you enjoy this for now.